and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
And this is Safarilive.
Ready. Standing by.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
Good morning, and we must apologize for all the gremlins this morning. They seem to be out and about in full force, but that's okay because we've got the Nkuhumas, and of course, they have a buffalo kill. What a surprise there. Absolute killing machines, these beautiful girls are. Isn't this absolutely wonderful? Now, I very quickly want to say hello and introduce myself so that we can let the real stars of the show take over. But good morning again. My name is Taylor, of course, and on camera with me, we've got Zander, a.k.a. Eggsy. I have to remind myself what his real name is, but let's have another look at these beautiful lions. Now, we heard them calling last night quite late, and they sounded very close to camp, and of course, they are indeed close to camp. But we didn't hear the distress calls of a buffalo, which I thought that we would have heard when they took it down, but perhaps it was an older cow that they were feeding. Ooh. I think keep your volume raised for this. There is a lot of growling and tension around the carcass this morning. You can see they've eaten quite a bit of it. They've eaten some of the face, and it looks like they've started on the hindquarters. So I think that they've been munching away, and when we did see the cubs up and about, well, you can still see them moving around. Those bellies are fat. They have eaten every little bit that they could, and I'm sure that there was lots of suckling involved as well, because we know how greedy the Nkuhumas are, especially at this age. And look at this one now balancing on the tree. Oh, no, you're going to have to practice those tree climbing skills a little bit better. What a fantastic way to start the morning, to come around the corner and have all the Nkuhumas here. There's also one Birmingham, but it's quite awkward. He's sitting behind us. We'll have a look at him in a moment. And it seems as though it's Mfumo, but I haven't seen Tinyo. I don't know if he's still around. Maybe he's moved off now. There is another vehicle moving around, so as soon as they settle down, then you should be able to hear the growling of the lions a little bit better. But let's just let them get settled into their position. It's quite a tricky spot. There's lots of trees around. As you can see, we're looking in between the branches. Oh my goodness. I think I'm going to have to go forward because it sounds like there's two cubs just out of range. We can't see them having a big argument about something. We're just gonna let Taxon quickly reposition and get in here. I don't want to have too many vehicles moving at once. On something I'll tell you about, a little exercise we very quickly did as one of the things you learn in guiding is these different techniques. And I know the lions are behind us. Okay, wait, let's go back. Okay, Taxon has stopped moving now. You can see them fighting over a buffalo tail. Lots of tension this morning. But you saw as soon as it got a little bit too rough, the two older cubs were fighting over the buffalo tail. The adults went in to intervene and solve the problem. And it seems as though they've done a little bit of reprimanding. I've seen Auntie Amber Eyes doing lots of reprimanding this morning. The cubs are really getting to that point where they're almost like teenagers that refuse to do anything that their parents say. So it's good that the mothers of the pride, and including Auntie Amber Eyes and the youngest female, are taking a stance and starting to reprimand them and put them back in their place, just to remind them that there is a pecking order, especially around the carcass. These cubs get quite cheeky, and of course, if the males are around, this will only end up in the youngsters a possibility of them getting hurt. And it's good to see that the females are trying to sort them out, and just to remind them that they are not the kings of the jungle just yet. But let me reposition quickly. I want to go forward. And I wanted to tell you about the guiding techniques. One of the things we first learned was that you only move one vehicle at a time in a sighting. Well, you should. I laid down on the ground. I quickly want to just finish this story, and then we'll have another look at the lions quickly from this angle. And I can tell you about my story then. And basically what happened, we all laid down on the ground and we had 6 vehicles move around us at once, and it was terrifying. Now imagine when you have the hearing of a lion, how super sensitive it is. It's actually not very pleasant at all. But we're going to hang around, and let's go back across to Byron, who's itching to say good morning to you.
Good morning, everybody, and what a start. My name's Byron, and with me on camera this morning is Brian and the Thumb. Good morning. And it's great to have you with us again on Safarilive. What an amazing start, as I just said, with Taylor. Managed to find the Nkuhuma pride again with another buffalo. Very, very interesting. So myself and Brian this morning, we are in search of leopard. We haven't had any leopard activity for the last few days, and it's not to say they're not around. We have got some updates. It sounds like the female leopard, which we see regularly in this area, Karula, and her 2 cubs are just south of our boundary. They have got a kill down there, so that's good for them. Just a little unfortunate for us, as we haven't seen them for a while. And then apparently there is a big male, I think it was Tingan, they said, which was also just east of our boundary, also with a kill. And we spoke about it yesterday. I think with all this weather that we've been having, there's been quite a lot of rain. A lot of these predators like to hunt in the rain because it's easier to then sneak up and ambush their prey. They're able to well, for one thing, the rain masks their scent and will also cover the sounds that they make, so it makes it a lot easier for them to really stalk very close and ambush their prey. And leopards, as we know, are ambush predators. Oh, and see some elephant have been through here. Look at that, it's amazing how much devastation they can cause. But that's not to say it's a bad thing. Often pushing over trees like that can cause or can create micro ecosystems for other smaller animals, insects and perhaps scrub hares. So it's, I suppose, nature's way of creating more homes for a lot of these smaller little animals and insects. We're going to head towards Buffelshoek Dam, and while I do that, let's head back to the lions and see what they're up to.
These are hungry lions today. Over the past couple of days, we've seen the lions picking and choosing from which carcasses they want to feed on, which has been quite sort of unusual to see them being able to pass up so many opportunities. You can see they've heard something in the distance. They're not particularly grabbing their attention. Maybe it's just a bird shuffling through all the leaf litter. But I'm glad to see that they got themselves another meal. I know that those starving cubs would have been excited about it. But I don't think that this carcass is going to last particularly long. It actually seems like... Oh, here we go. Here comes another male. Here comes, I think it looks like Tinyo coming off from the left, and that's who they were obviously looking back. Look how beautiful and look how big they're getting now. You can really see how the Birminghams are starting to fill out, how that mane is now going almost onto the shoulder blade, and it'll eventually join with the tufts of hair on the back of their knees. They're starting to look like real big boys. The darkening of the hair, you can see that quite nicely now, and this is spectacular. This is my favorite time of the male lions, is when they just start getting their sort of really filling into themselves and looking like big male lions. And they're not particularly small, the Birminghams, especially, like I said, over the last few weeks that I've been here. I can definitely see a change. But he looks nice and full. He doesn't seem too interested in feeding just for the moment. So that's nice that both Tinyo and Mfumo are hanging around together. It's great to have that presence in the pride. We know then that no hyenas will be messing with these lions, especially if those males are around. As you can see, those little cubs always getting in the way. Those poor adults just trying to have something to eat, and wherever they eat, well, the little ones are there latching onto the same piece of flesh, trying to pull it out of their mother's mouth. Oh, sorry. And Tinyo did something strange, but I don't know if he yawned or if he had something stuck in his mouth. They're looking stunning this morning. X-Ranger, good morning, and I'm so glad that you're watching today. So X-Ranger, you commented saying about, well, hang on, before I get to your question, look at this. Now, we know that Tinyo is not normally as tolerant as Mfumo, but let's see how far this cub can push it. You are one very brave cub, so take some snapshots, because this is not a very common thing that you see, where this male hasn't turned around and tried to swipe that little kitty cat off its back. Now, little cub, you need to realize that this lion is not buffalo, and you're also playing with fire by doing so. Sorry, X-Ranger. So, thanks for all the lovely comments, and just to let you know, we are on day 49 of our cat streak. One more day to go till we hit the big 50, and I hope we do, and I have a feeling we will. But look at this lovely little cub as it's playing on the buffalo head. Yes, that's a much better toy to play with rather than your father, especially when they're not the most tolerant of cats. But isn't this lovely? And they're getting better, and I'm sure you've noticed every time we see them on the kill, the little ones are actually starting to practice valuable techniques that they'll need to use one day when they hunt. Yes, you're getting there, little one. Remember, we are on a live safari at the moment, and we'd love to hear from you. You can either do so by hashtagging Safarilive on Twitter, or you can send us an email at questions@wildearth.tv, and we'll happily try and answer your questions today. But isn't this just a beautiful scene? That's very nice. Quickly snap away, take some shots of them both looking in the same direction. You've got to be so quick out here in the bush. I missed my opportunity, but I'm sure that you all got some fantastic shots. It's quite nice to have a male lion as your backdrop, and of course a buffalo. Isn't that creative? Here we go, little cub. That's behaving a little bit better. Now, I'm really impressed with Tinyo, because the last time I saw him, I'm talking about maybe about a month ago, when he decided to come back into the pride, he did not show any tolerance for any of the cubs at all. He swatted them before they even got a meter close to him. He was up and growling. Now, if you look at his right ear, that ear that we can see on the left-hand side of your screen, I don't know if you remembered some of the key identifying features. You can see there's almost a half moon taken out of that ear, so it's his right ear and on our left. Just in case you perhaps just started watching and you're unsure of these different males, that's a very easy way. And then, of course, he's got a big split in his lip, which we can't see right now, but if he turns his head, it's on the left side of his face. Now, we were chatting about their manes and how dark they're getting. I know Kyle has commented this morning saying that he thinks that Tino has the darkest mane. I must agree. I think, because I haven't seen Nsuku, the original blondie. I haven't had an opportunity to see him yet, but I believe in terms of size, he's apparently the largest and the oldest, so it'd be quite interesting to see the color of his mane compared to the others. Now, of course, this is all genetic dependent. Sometimes you do just get blonde mane lines. They don't always go dark. You especially see beautiful black mane lines when they have the Kalahari gene in them. That is really, really nice. These little ones are all tucking into that buffalo now. Now you can see this little cub. Of course, we are watching it carefully. This is unfortunately one of the little cubs that has got mange. But you can see, though, even though it has got a little bit of a skin condition, that it is probably one of the most feisty of the cubs. It's always playing, it's always stalking. It's the first one to jump on top of any of the male lions. And, of course, on top of the buffalo carcass in an attempt to try and re-kill it. And that's what I think is amazing, is just the personality of this lovely little cub. It's just incredible to watch. And that's what we're starting to see now as the cubs get older, is that they are developing their own personality. Some are just quiet and they like to sit on the outside and observe. And we get people like that, of course, and you have others that seem to want to tackle their problems sort of face on, and they don't let life get them down. Very bubbly. You can see the little cub in the tree as well. You be very careful how high you want to go up, because it's a long way down. One of the young males. And also, out of all the lions that I've seen in my years of even going on holiday with my family from when I was younger, I've never seen lions that enjoy the trees so much, and especially here in South Africa. The Nkuhumas, and especially their cubs, have almost mastered climbing up and down and dangling from very low tree branches. A bit of a dispute back at the carcass. You can see that little cub on the bottom right there, trying to get in. Hello, look at this. Ooh. Look at Amber Eyes quickly. Look how she's coming right towards us. She's now luring Tino away from the kill. Let's just see what he does. He's standing, as you can see, about half a meter away from us. Actually, maybe even a little bit closer. Hello, beautiful boy. Now, Amber Eyes has been acting extremely amorous over the past couple of days. It's quite amazing to see. You can hear there's lots of tension between one of the adult lionesses and the cubs. Now, Tinyo, are you going? Yeah, he's going back around. Amber Eyes has led him away from the pride. She's gone and laid down on the road. No, and he's gone to lay off in the complete opposite direction. Now you can see that cub wants to almost go inside that cavity, but the female's not letting it. Now we're getting to the point where it's going to become a lot easier to start being able to tell the difference between the male and the female cubs. It's very difficult for sort of the first 4 months of their life when they all look the same. And I know that Faith was wondering exactly that. Faith was wanting to know this morning where or how can we tell the difference, and are those traits going to be noticeable soon? And if there's any specific sort of traits that come with being a male or a female at this age. Now, I haven't seen anything specific. Both male and female seem to be quite feisty at this age, especially when they reach 6 months or so. And something that you have to look at, but it is still a little bit difficult, is if you start to look around the chest and on the side of the face of the young male cubs, if they're looking at you, they're going to get tufts of hair sticking out onto the side. We'll try and have a look and find one. There we go. That looks like a young male there. But of course, you can also start to see the little bits developing. You see, he hasn't really got any fluff on his face just yet, so it makes it a little bit harder. But give it another month or two, and I think we'll be in business, and it'll be really, really easy to be able to tell the differences quite nicely. Now I'm going to attack this tree. You've got a whole buffalo to play with, and a buffalo's tail. Why don't you pick that up again? I don't blame Auntie Amber Eyes for moving away from the carcass. I think that she's getting a little bit sick of the cubs harassing her all the time, but hopefully she's going to have cubs of her own for the first time, well, and then she's going to have to put up with them. But we're not going to go anywhere just yet, but I'm going to send you back across to Byron to see what his plans are this morning.
So we're still looking for any sign of leopard activity this morning, and so far no luck. But we're not giving up. Brian and I are confident we're going to have some luck this morning. Something's got to change. And I just heard one of the other guides on the neighboring property say that they went to that site where Tingan was, where he had the kill. It doesn't look like he's there anymore, so he's possibly moved off. So we're checking the boundary very, very carefully, trying to see if we get any tracks. We've got some hyena tracks in the road. There have been a lot of carcasses around here, so I'm sure some of the hyena have been attracted into this area because of the smell. But we haven't seen nearly as many hyenas as we saw the last time I was here. So we had that den site active in about June, July, and there was a lot of hyena activity. I think it's possibly because of all the lions around at the moment. Generally, hyena don't like that much competition, and I think with these big Birmingham males around, the hyena probably feel it's safer to move into other areas. And we're just scanning very, very carefully while we're driving. I'm taking a nice slow drive this morning. Don't want to miss anything. And when you are looking for something as elusive as a leopard, it's sometimes needed. Check every tree, every termite mound. It's a lovely morning though, it's nice and cool. The temperature's dropped quite a bit. It's about 20 degrees or 21 degrees Celsius, which is fantastic. Nice to have some cool weather for a change. So Dina has asked us a question from the rain that we had the other day, Dina would like to know, was there any damage from the hail? Dina, I think the only damage was to our little tent. That was damaged a little bit. Some of the poles were bent, and the tarpaulin or the cover, the rain cover, had been blown over. So it was only to the tent, but no major damage to anything else. I wonder how James is going to feel about that when he returns, seeing that his beloved tent has been damaged by the hail. So James is going to be back soon. What day is it today? Wednesday, Thursday? James will be back on Friday, I believe. So, looking forward to James returning. And I'm sure we'll have a few drives together and perhaps a fireside chat. Who knows? That could be fun. Haven't done one with James yet. I haven't done one at all. Very quiet on this side of the property at the moment. Haven't even seen any impala just yet. Amy has asked me a question, and Amy would like to know, well, yesterday we found the start of a little termite mound. Some termites had just started building basically we could call it renovating their little termite mound, the start of a termite mound. Amy would like to know if we can check that a little bit later. We'll definitely go past and have a look, Amy, and see. I think I remember where it is, yes. And see how far they've got, if they've built it even higher. Let's have a good look around here quickly. I think this was the area that Tingan was in yesterday, just east of our boundary. So having a very close look here. Excuse me a second. Go ahead, Herbert. Copy, Herbert. Thank you, and just keep me updated, please. Thanks. So Herbert's out this morning too with us, and he's giving us a hand trying to see if we can find any leopards. It's always nice having an extra pair of eyes, especially someone as qualified as Herbert or as experienced. You know, he's really, really great tracker and he knows what to look for. Going to carry on having a look around this area. We're going to check very, very carefully. So bear with us. And while we do that, let's head back to Taylor and see how those lions are doing.
They're still arguing with each other. Like I said, that poor lioness at the back is just trying to eat in peace, but she's not able to do so. I think every single cub this morning has either been sort of reprimanded in some way, whether it be by growling or having a little smack from the paw. They are not listening today. But these Nkuhumas, the adults, have been so patient. Look at that one. See how the lioness is trying to eat? She cannot eat in peace. If that lion's head was any smaller, it would probably end up inside her mouth. That poor lion. I don't blame them. You're going to be in trouble, little one, if you carry on acting like that. That's beautiful, though. Her eyes just poking over the top of the carcass. Little cub is not impressed. No, we're not too far from where the lions were yesterday, and probably a couple of 100 meters from here. And I know that Margaret and Pinchy are wondering if this is a new kill or an old kill. It's actually a new one. They must have killed it last night sometime, perhaps in the early hours of the morning. We heard them all calling, probably around 10:30 or so, somewhere around there last night, and then they continued until the early hours of the morning. So it must have been when they started moving around. It looks like a buffalo cow, and if you remember, a couple of days ago, it could even be a week ago, we saw that buffalo cow at the dam all on her own. And I said to her that she better be quite careful. Perhaps it's her. Maybe she just never regrouped with the rest of the herd. Because it's quite bizarre. I didn't really see too many buffalo tracks around here. Maybe it was just a small breeding herd. But I wonder if it wasn't perhaps that lone buffalo cow. Here comes Amber Eyes coming in from behind again. And she is just looking so beautiful at the moment. Look at her condition. She's healthy and she's quite a big lioness. I think she's stunning for a big girl. Hello, Red, and welcome to the show. I know that this is your first time watching it, and we hope that you decide to stick around. Now, Red was wondering, how do we tell the difference between the various lions? Red, well, I struggle quite a bit. I'm still learning about them. The males, for me, are probably the easiest, but when we get a good view at them, I shall show you some differences. Now, with the females, it becomes a little bit more tricky, and the easiest one to tell apart from the rest is, of course, Amber Eyes, but we can't get a view of her. She's disappeared behind some trees. But as her name suggests, she's got lovely sort of brown, almost orange eyes. And so she's very easy to tell the difference between, because none of the others, hang on, look at, can you see her here? I want to try and reposition. Oh no, there we got a little view. I know it's not the greatest view. Amber Eyes is being incredible. I've never seen her like this. She's very playful. She goes up to the male, she nudges heads with them, and she sort of swipes them a little bit. But it seems to be very friendly and almost playful, which I find to be amazing, because she used to have the complete opposite behavior towards the males. So this is amazing. It's almost like she's had a change of heart. But that is wonderful. Such bizarre behavior. So sorry, Red. Now, that, of course, when we get a good shot of Amber Eyes, we'll try and zoom in on her eyes so you can have a better look. Like I said, for the rest of the pride, it's a bit difficult. There's another very young lioness who's got a pink nose. She couldn't be more than about 3 years old. And then, of course, the other three, who are the mothers of the cubs that we have at the moment, they're quite difficult to tell the difference between. However, the oldest mother of the cub, Jamie said to me that she's got a very hairy chin, and I have been able to notice that. There's almost an abundance of hair growing on her chin, which makes it quite easy to spot. Now, the other two, I haven't worked out any identifying features just yet, but maybe some of you who have been watching for quite a few years and have been following the story of the Nkuhumas, maybe you could shed some light and help myself and Red out. Are there any awesome, sort of very easy and obvious identifying features of the lionesses? And you can do that by either hashtagging Safarilive on Twitter or sending us an email, questions@wildearth.tv. But let's very quickly go across to Byron, who has got one of the most beautiful birds in the bush.
Oh, look what we've found, everybody. We've found some ground hornbills. This is great. Looks like 4 of them that we can see. Look there, it's got a beetle. And that one to the right, they're 2 adults and a juvenile. See the dark face of the juvenile and the bright red adults. Bright red face of the adults. And while they're walking around, they are looking for food like insects, and these ground hornbills also feed on reptiles, so lizards or even snakes at times. They've just moved off a little bit, but luckily you can still see them. See that juvenile off to the left? Much, much darker face. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it takes him about 6 to 8 years until they reach maturity with the ground hornbills, which is a long time. There you can see that one's still got a little beetle in its beak. Oh, there we go. It's a nice view of them. All 4 of them. These are incredibly endangered, so it's wonderful to see them. They are very rare. They just constantly walk around looking for food. Especially now with all that rain that we had, there has been a sudden increase in dung beetles. All the dung beetles wandering around, the elephant dung and buffalo dung, some of the larger dung beetles. And that's what these birds are looking for. You can see they've found a few already. And they're just moving off into that dense thicket now. So glad we got to see them though, that's fantastic. Something different. And still no luck just yet with any leopard activity, but great to see those ground hornbills. So it just shows you there's always something going on and something different to see. And I've only seen, since I've been here, I saw one ground hornbill the other day. And so it's the first time that I've seen this group, which is great. It's nice to see they've got a little immature ground hornbill with them. So they'll look after that one and hopefully it will reach adulthood. Let us continue and see what else we can find. I'm still checking the road very, very carefully for any tracks, any sign of leopards. So Connor's just asked a question about the ground hornbills, and Connor wanted to know if the 2 ground hornbills were juvenile. So Connor, no, the one, only the darker one was the juvenile, the immature. The others were all adults, the other 3. So the juveniles are always dark, and then just before they reach adulthood, you'll start seeing that face changing color and becoming that beautiful red coloration. Melinda has asked us a question about the hornbills and whether or not they mate for life. And Linda, it's always a tricky question because if anything happens to one of the others, they'll obviously have to go and look for partners later on. I'm trying to think with the ground hornbills. They do stay within family groups, and I think they do tend to mate for life. I'll have to double check that for you though, because as I say, it can vary, but generally, from what I understand with the ground hornbills, they do. There's a dung beetle just flying past us, looking for some food, some dung. We're heading down to our southern boundary. We're going to have a good look around here, just see if there's been any leopards crossing over onto our side. While I do that, let's see what the lions are up to.
They are doing all sorts of crazy things. They're up in the tree, they're eating the buffalo, they're chasing each other around with a tail. But of course now they seem to have settled down, but I think just for a moment. You can see that's the little one that's got the tail. It was causing all the drama earlier this morning. They're getting very rough now. You can see the 2 in the back up on the top of the tree teasing each other. And one is having a groom from one of the lionesses at the back. And I seem to have so much luck when it comes to the Nkuhumas. They always seem to be playing or eating something, and I'm really quite thankful for that. So thank you, lions, because I know how hard it can be to sit and watch them fast asleep on a summer's day, there's almost nothing quite worse. Like I've said to you before, I think I'd rather watch grass grow or paint dry than watch the Nkuhumas, or any lions in fact, fast asleep, not even twitching a tail. But then I've also had my most amazing sightings watching lions sleep. Now, speaking about how much they sleep, Roger was wondering, is the reason behind them sleeping so much because they need to conserve energy to hunt? Roger, you are spot on this morning. That is exactly it. Remember, if you had to run around the entire day chasing each other, very much like what we see the cubs doing, expending all their energy, if that opportunity comes around where you need to get up and quickly hunt something because a kudu or a buffalo or a zebra is coming in your path, or perhaps you've gone out on a planned hunt, then you're probably not going to have as much energy. And that's the most important thing. It's not that the lions are lazy. It is vital to their survival that they conserve energy when they are not eating. So well done. It seems as though everybody is getting really, really good. Even all the new viewers that we've had coming on over the last couple of weeks. It's nice to keep hearing you asking questions, and we'd love to hear from you. Remember, there's no such thing as a stupid question or a silly question or anything like that. Ask away. You never know. It might be something that I don't even know, and isn't that amazing? Is that it just shows you that you just cannot know everything out in the bush. I forget what a couple of the sort of very, very well-known wildlife presenters or sort of narrators, and they all say that they probably don't even know 3% about what goes on out here in the wilderness. Now, I was telling you about, I've had some of my best sightings with lions sleep. I've watched lions sleep like the dead before, and I was convinced they were sitting in long grass as well, so you could just every now and then see a tail flick, and I persevered and I sat through it for about an hour, and eventually they randomly just jumped up and started running, and there was some blesbok, which is a type of antelope, came running down the road, and they took advantage of that and they killed 2 blesbok. So from sleeping lions, almost like I said, like they looked like they were dead, to getting up and of course turning into the killing machines which we know they are well capable of becoming. So I thought that was quite spectacular, even though that's not my favorite thing to do, of course. But I suppose these Nkuhumas are really growing on me. Like I said, they've fast become my favorite pride of lions that I've ever come across. Now, we haven't really been seeing the cubs playing over the last few days, just because it's been very, very hot. But it's nice and cool this morning. It's only about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which is lovely. It's very fresh. And of course, that means that these little cubs are going to play and play until they're absolutely exhausted. Oh. Now, we've been chatting quite a bit, of the Birminghams, if anybody else comes in to try and take over, or how long the Birminghams are going to be in rain for. Now, we're not sure. Something could happen tomorrow, and a new coalition of males could come through. Now, Lauren has asked, it's quite interesting, sort of this take of it, would the lionesses or the pride accept a new lion, a new female lion, if she came into the area? Now, I've actually seen this before, and they act very aggressively towards that particular lioness, and I've unfortunately, in a place that I previously worked, where a lion was killed. She came from another area and tried to come through, and well, the pride just wasn't having any of it. I saw it down on the southern sands as well, where the southern pride does not seem to enjoy the Charleston pride, so where the Charleston males originally come from, their mother, and she's joined up with a couple of other lions now. Whenever the southern pride comes across them in their territory, they chase them right out. So I don't necessarily think so. However, there's also a couple of cases, there's obviously both sides to the story, where lionesses have left their original prides and moved on for whatever reason it may be, and I've seen this too, and then they've also been accepted into another pride. But I think it takes a lot of work And I don't think that they'll be accepted almost right off the bat. I think it will probably take a few days, if not even a few weeks. Now, speaking of females joining prides, now, Mary, you're wondering if these cubs are going to stay here for the rest of their lives or if they're going to perhaps move on. Now, the males are definitely going to move on. They unfortunately won't be allowed to stay with the pride. So once they get to about 2.5 years old, depending on how the Birminghams feel about having them around, they will be kicked out and they will have to go and move. And this is where life gets very tough for those male lions, is that they have to live in between the territories of other dominant coalitions and move around and try and stay hidden for the next couple of years until they're old enough to be able to take over a pride of their own. Now, the females will most likely, like I said, there is the odd exception to the rule, but they should theoretically stay with the pride for the rest of their life. And this is, of course, just the females. Almost don't know where to look. Hey, Eggsy, there's lions doing everything around, or just almost everywhere. Some of the lionesses have settled down now for a snooze. Now, this is something that I still have not been able to work out, and Marsha from Oklahoma was wondering, when you get close enough to the lions, do they smell? Now, apparently there's a distinct odor of lions. I can smell wet lions. They smell very much like a wet dog. But I have never been able to pick up this other scent that I've heard guides talk about before. So I can't even describe it to you, unfortunately, Marsha, but I have heard it, not from everybody, but just a couple of people that say that they do have their unique scent. And the indigenous people, so the local Shangans in this area, they can smell the lions very, very well. Often had it many a times where we've stopped to check tracks and my tracker had said to me, I can smell them, they're close by. And, well, we go a couple of meters further forward and you won't believe it, behind the corner, around the corner, sorry, or in the drainage line, there they are, fast asleep or doing whatever they may be. But for me, no, I have not acquired the smell, but the animals do typically have a scent. The waterbuck, of course, have that very musky smell. Sort of smells like drain water, which also pretty much smells like a male elephant bull. Of course it's a male if it's a bull. Sorry, I'm having one of those days where I'm just sort of Captain Obvious towards myself. Now, sorry. So when the elephant bulls are in must, they have also that drain water smell to them. It's quite strong and pungent. And probably my worst smells is the sweet smell of a wild dog. It smells like a stinky sock that has had cheese in it fermenting. It's a bizarre smell. It's not very nice. And then, of course, the wildebeest, which smells like off butter, which is quite interesting. That's, of course, what they smell like to me. They could be different to somebody else. Once having a snooze, you do very well in Tanzania, little lion cub. You've already got the knack for sleeping up in the trees. Oh, my goodness. Now the little ones are ganging up on each other. You can just see the bushes all moving. Oh, wow. That was a big pounce. They've definitely got more of a spring in their step as they get older. Not so clumsy anymore. After all that playing, I suppose you start to get hungry again running around, and I think that's exactly what's happening. As I suspect that the cubs are going to chew on this carcass more frequently than the adults. They are burning a lot more energy. Birds are all also just starting to wake up. Now, speaking of coalitions in this area, Andrew wants to know what is the largest coalition of male lions I've seen. Well, Andrew, unfortunately, I haven't had the opportunity to see too many big coalitions. I missed the Mapojos. I think I'd only really just started guiding towards when they sort of ended their reign. I think they, if I'm not mistaken, it was to about 2012 or so. So I wasn't guiding up in this area just yet. I have seen a group of male lions called the Eastern Bank Pride, and they're just male lions. Now, they're quite young, though. I'm trying to just double check and remember how old they were. The Eastern Bank boys, I think they were about 3.5 years old. And I got to see them a couple of times down in the Southern Sands. And up here, I haven't had the privilege yet to see all 4 Birminghams together. So it has to be the Eastern Bank, though. They're going to be quite impressive in a few years' time, and I hope to see them again one day, because they were very, very pretty lions and quite big for their age. They came from sort of northern Kruger and then moved down. So that'll be an interesting pride takeover. Oh, having another squabble. And every time I keep quiet, they then don't make any noises. I think we're going to hear a bit of growling again. That little one sticking its head very close to that female's head, and I'm sure she'll only put up with it for not too much longer. So is it, Kirst, did you say toxigenic? Did I hear that correctly? Wonderful. On toxigenic, you're wondering this morning how many prides do the Birmingham boys sort of see in their territorial range? Well, I think it's just the Nkuhumas and then, of course, the Styx pride. The Tsalalas are sort of keeping a very low profile because of the young males that are there, and, of course, that one, the female. The 2 females, sorry. So I don't think that they're going there. So those ones, they're sort of the Tsalalas seem to move around in between the territories, like I was telling you. And apparently they occasionally pop into the Torchwood Pride as well. I have yet to see any of the Torchwood members, so that's another group of lions that are on my list. But it seems as though they tend to stick around on the sort of areas of Arethusa, Djuma, Cheetah Plains, and Nkoro. They seem to hang around here more often, which is great for us, of course. I'm very ecstatic about that, to have a resident pride of lions. And I suppose there's no need to go anywhere when there's so many buffalo around. Right, but let's go back across to Byron, who's got another type of bovid for you.
Look at that, everyone. We found some wildebeest. That's great. I haven't actually seen wildebeest since I've been here. So nice to see this little group, this herd, small herd. I think we may start seeing more of them because of the little bit of rain that we've had. We're starting to get some green grass shoots coming out, and that's what these wildebeest love feeding on. It's possibly why we're seeing this group now. Just getting back to a question I was asked earlier, Melinda, I think it was asked about the ground hornbill and if they mate for life. I just double checked myself just to make sure. And as I said, they do generally stay together, and they are monogamous. So they do mate for life, Melinda. But again, if one is injured or dies, then the other one will have to find a new mate. The interesting thing with the ground hornbill is how they raise their chicks. So they usually only lay 2 eggs, and whichever one is born first is generally then going to be the stronger one, and usually the other chick dies. And that is one of the reasons why they are so endangered, because the breeding is not very successful. So it's good to see that juvenile or that immature one with those 3 adults. See these wildebeest really enjoying the grass there at the moment. Some lovely grass shoots out at the currently, but it's still fairly dry. We still need a lot more rain, and we still need a lot of food to grow for these animals. You can hear the ground hornbills calling in the distance. It's amazing how far that sound can travel. Because we are quite far from where we saw them earlier. So this is nice, something different. We've been checking along these drainage lines, these thicker areas, because generally leopards do prefer moving through areas like this. They are often known as fringe hunters, which basically means that they like to hunt on the fringe between a clearing or a crest area and the thicket or the drainage lines, because what happens is they're able to move through there and hide very well, and any animals that come close to that, the edge of that thicket, they're able to then ambush and try and hunt. Something as big as this wildebeest, though, it's unlikely that a leopard would hunt a large wildebeest. I have seen them though with wildebeest calves, or hunting wildebeest calves and hoisting them into trees, especially a big male leopard. That wouldn't be a problem for him at all. But however, these adult wildebeest are a little bit too large. Our strange looking antelope. And that's right, you didn't hear me incorrectly there. They are part of the antelope family. Some people think they are a species of buffalo when they first see them, but they're not. They are completely part of the antelope family. So just like the impala, kudu, the bushbuck, the nyala, all those various antelope species we have around here. Donna's asked us an interesting question. Donna's asked, can humans eat wildebeest? And yes, we can indeed. Because they are part of the antelope species, they're actually very tasty. A lot of the antelope species within Africa, people do eat them. Impala, kudu, springbuck, and you can definitely eat a wildebeest. Game meat, or what we call venison, it's very tasty. And James made a comment, and he said he's looking forward to all the wildebeest births. And those wildebeest have just moved off into the thicket now, into just further carrying on feeding. But James, you're 100% right. Very, very soon we're going to start having wildebeest births. And just like the impala, the wildebeest have a set mating season, and that's usually around April, May, and then what happens is they give birth generally towards the end of November, beginning of December. The impala, it's a little bit sooner. They'll start giving birth, and again, we were speaking about it yesterday. We're going to have to start taking bets to see when the first impala lamb is born. Usually it's beginning to middle of November that they do drop and they do lamb, and usually what happens is they all give birth around the same time. The reason for that is then, just like the wildebeest, with them giving birth at more or less the same time. Sorry, I just thought I heard something behind me. I think it was perhaps an Egyptian geese. So as I was saying, with them giving birth around the same time, they ensure the safety of the youngsters. It's easier to look after a group of youngsters or lambs as opposed to looking after one. So that's generally a theory of why they all synchronize the birthing, so that it's easier to look after the group. And also what happens then is, if one... Sorry, I can hear something and it's impala. Just want to hear carefully if it's not an alarm call. Actually just sounded like one or two snorts and grunts from males, possibly fighting. So just quickly to end off with the lambs and the calves, as I was saying, what happens is if they all give birth around the same time, it's easier to look after them. And if one or two or three or four are killed out of that group or hunted by predators, then there's still a number of them which survive. And that's why we do tend to see a lot of impala and a lot of wildebeest in certain areas. Those calls have stopped now, but it was definitely an impala's snort or grunt, but it sounded like one or two males because I actually just heard it moving. And that's usually what happens when the males are fighting. They may snort or grunt and chase each other. Alarm calls, it's usually a set. You can hear the antelope, or especially impala, will stand, they'll alarm call and then run. So you won't necessarily get the alarm calls with them moving. But yeah, there's nothing again. I think it was just some males. But it just shows you stopping and listening like that is very important. So Marco has asked us a question about the wildebeest and giving birth. And Marco would like to know, do the wildebeest return to the same area every year to give birth? So Marco, in these areas in southern Africa, we don't have migrations like you get up in North or East Africa rather. You have those huge migrations of millions of wildebeest. They will generally return to certain areas and give birth. Whereas out here, they'll give birth just about anywhere, but usually they stay in areas where the food is good, the open grasslands. That's the type of terrain they enjoy. So it's not a case, I think, of them really returning to the same area because they don't migrate. They will always be in this area. But in East Africa with the migrations, they do return within certain areas because that's where the food is and the water, and that's where they will give birth. So East Africa is very different to where we are down in Southern Africa, and there I think it is a case of them returning to the same area to give birth. We're going to continue our search. There's a lot of impala around, so it doesn't look like leopard activity around here at the moment, but who knows, they could be hiding in the thickets. Let's head back to Taylor and get an update on those lions.
They are still eating, and of course the cubs are still being a nuisance to the adults. So it seems to have got a lot quieter here now, but you can see that female, she gets agitated every now and then. And they're still munching away. Now there isn't much left on this carcass, so they need to try and, well, everybody needs to try and eat as much as they can. So if you hear me pause randomly, it's because they're making nice noises. Well, nice noises to my ears, not behaving very nicely towards that cub, or the cub not behaving, you know, appropriately around the dinner table. I'm sure you can hear all the little birds chirping as well. It's quite beautiful. Now we're waiting hopefully Amber Cubs is going to have her first set of cubs. Wouldn't that be exciting? And I know that I Walk in the Rain was wondering if any of these cubs at the moment that we're seeing have any dark eyes like her. I haven't seen anything just yet. It's the typical sort of golden yellow color. But you never know, possibly it might change. Some of the little ones haven't quite got their permanent eye color just yet, like the one that we're looking at. You can see it's lovely and golden. But if Amber Eyes has cubs, perhaps that's going to be a trait that she passes on to some of her cubs, and wouldn't that be amazing? She's honestly, she's such a stunning lion. Every time I see her, she grows on me more and more. She reminds me of a young lioness that I absolutely loved when I was guiding down in the Eastern Cape. But she didn't have beautiful eyes like Amber Eyes, of course. Not happy at all. No, Roger, thank you. Made me have a good chuckle this morning. The way Roger started his comment was, my cat is not very social. And I had a good giggle about that because I can just picture, Roger, I can just picture your cat when you're going in to pat it on the head and it's sort of turning its bum towards you and then walking off, not interested at all. I thought that was quite funny, just to paint a picture of what I was thinking about. Now, Roger, you want to know why that the lions are so social compared to tigers and leopards and jaguar, which tend to be on more of the solitary side. I'm not sure why the lions have evolved in order or to be so social, and obviously it was an evolutionary trait that worked on their side. I mean, living in a group, you have a better advantage of hunting, and obviously survival out in the bush becomes a little bit easier because there's more of you to help protect each other. You're not just watching your own back. I've never really read anything that says exactly why lions are social compared to other cats. I think it was just something that happened as evolution sort of continued. But I think, like I said, I think it was a great trait. I mean, there's no other cats in the world that are social. It's just the lions. Isn't that amazing how everybody else is still stuck to the solitary way, yet these super cats have joined up. Imagine if tigers were in a group together. I don't know what you would call the collective noun for a group of tigers would be. That would then be impressive. Of course, the tigers are much larger than lions. And they, my goodness, I don't know, if they were living in Africa, if we had tigers in Africa, I reckon they'd be taking down elephants if they lived in groups together. They are so powerful. There's a pair of crested francolins that are chirping in the background. They keep coming closer and closer. Hello, M. Dixon, who is currently a new viewer. Well, welcome. Well, you're not a new viewer now because you're watching us, and I hope that you stay and become one of the permanent viewers. We'd love to keep hearing from you. Now, you're wondering, why am I not being attacked when the lions are so close? So we are currently situated on Djuma Private Game Reserve, which is a private sort of concession that is a part of the greater Kruger area, and in total the animals have got about 8.5 million acres of land to roam around on. Now, we've been interacting with these animals in vehicles for over 30 years. We don't feed them, they hunt for themselves, we don't pet them, they are completely wild. And now, by coming in and slowly habituating the animals to the vehicles, they eventually forget that we're even there. And they don't mind us at all. So I don't look like food. I don't look like a buffalo or a wildebeest or a zebra. In fact, when I get out of the vehicle, the animals are actually quite scared of me. And that's just unfortunately due to all the hunting that went on when the Europeans first started arriving in Africa for food, obviously for trading of various sort of rare items, from ivory to rhino horn to the different animal skins, all those types of things. And they now have this almost, I suppose you could call it an inbred fear. When they see our figure with our heads positioned on the front of our heads, we look like a predator too. They'll often run from us. But in the vehicle, I don't behave like a human. I'm completely neutral. I sound and I smell like a human, like I said, but I'm not behaving like one, so they don't bother by us. They actually sometimes walk right past the vehicle, which is quite amazing. And I find, though, that the cats are the easiest to habituate. They don't mind us at all. Here we go, having a big groom on that big belly. That's an interesting position. That lion can almost touch its toes with its nose. I don't think I'd ever be able to do that. Very flexible, these little cats. No, rolling back now. Covered in blood. Now, that little one's not going to be able to groom its own face, so it's going to have to get somebody else to groom it for him. There you go. This lioness is done eating now. Off you go. Now watch these little ones. I bet what will happen, it probably won't now because I'm going to say this, but I always think it's so funny that they harass these poor lionesses, and then when they move away, well, then it's not fun anymore, and then they go too. So we'll see how long they hang around on this carcass. Chewing away. It's now very quiet. They're not fighting and squabbling with each other at all. So, as I mentioned, I was unsure of the collective name of tigers. I believe that you're all trying to guess and come up with some good ones, so I'd love to actually hear from you. I believe some of them are sort of streak or an ambush of tigers. They're brilliant. And I always think, I don't think you should have one collective name for a group of animals. It's nice to come up with all sorts of different ones. And that was something I used to be quite good at when I was a younger guide. I used to try and learn all the various collective nouns, or actually try and come up with some with my guests as we go along, and we'd have a good laugh. Margaret, your collective noun for the tigers is that it should be lots of stripe and fur. That's a good one. Definitely no shortage of stripes, and they do seem to be quite hairy cats. I don't think they have as slick coats as the lions. But I suppose when you're living in the jungle, it's a little bit cooler than what it is out here. If you hear some strange rumbling noises, don't worry, it's just my stomach. And I don't know why, because that buffalo carcass doesn't look very appetizing to me. Look at those little cubs now, very happy that they've got the entire carcass to themselves. You can see that little one at the back's got a little nick in its ear. Can you see that? Top left. I wonder if that's perhaps not from being reprimanded by one of the lionesses and then her just nicking its ear, but it's not a bad injury. It'll heal fairly quickly. And in the cavity of the stomach they go. Come on, little ones, you could fit inside there. Full belly, leg up. David Ryan, you are full of jokes this morning. I remember when you came up with the tiger horse for the zebra, and now you said that and I love this one. I think this is my favorite so far. And you said that the tigers should be called zebra cats, and I think that that's a brilliant one. That is hysterical. So one day when I eventually get a photo of a tiger or have the opportunity to perhaps head into India and see them roaming in the wild, that will be the caption of my very first photo. And I think it's a brilliant one. The zebra cats. I love that. Fast asleep peacefully without being annoyed by the cubs for the moment. You can see there's lots of little flies around, and the flies that are out at the moment are a bit frustrating because they seem to be biting flies. I don't know what sort they are, but they are these tiny little ones, bigger than a midge, and they nip you, and it is so sore. So I can imagine that's probably also what's biting the cat's ears, one of those little sensitive areas, and making them jump occasionally. But you can see them, they're tiny little flies. They're not the big blue and green flies that we often see on top of the carcasses or the normal house fly. It's something a little bit different. We'll stick with these Nkuhumas perhaps for a little bit longer. There doesn't seem to be too much pressure on the sighting just yet. But while we do so, let's go back across and get an update from Byron.
So great that we're able to spend so much time with those lions. I'm on the road where we had all those termites yesterday. Just trying to see, it looks like these ones have closed up the holes over here, but you can see that it's very, very fresh. Still from the last day or from yesterday where these termites were busy building. No activity there. We had a question about the little few termites that we found in the road. They were starting to build a little termite mound, or the beginning of that. Let's see, and it's just up ahead. So let's see how far they've got. There we go. Straight ahead in the road. It's still there. It's much, or I wouldn't say much, it's a little bit taller than yesterday. There we go. So Amy, I think it was you who asked about the termites in the road. Have a look at that. So they have made it a little bit taller, but it doesn't look like there's too much activity there. However, can you see that hole is still open? I'm actually going to jump out quickly and just have a look there for you, Amy. Let's see what we can find. Make sure there's no leopard hiding in the bushes nearby. Actually, it's very active at the moment, Amy, and for everyone else watching. Very small little termites, all building, but it's very difficult. You probably won't see it from the angle that you are at because it's a little bit lower down. It's this flat section right over here, and they're all just inside, and they're busy building around the edge of this little termite mound, not quite a mound yet, this little termite tunnel that they've started to build. And they're fixing all over. These workers are busy fixing and packing all the dirt and sand that they are bringing out of the soil. And they mix it with their saliva and their feces, actually. And that mixture with the soil then is what they use to build these little tunnels, these funnel-shaped tunnels, and eventually it may turn out to be a mound one day. That's very interesting. So there is still activity, and I think it's because there's still so much moisture in the air. So that's when these termites start becoming a lot more active. And so it's great that we could see them still very, very busy. That other one didn't, that looked like it was closed. So those termites are possibly just maybe resting. And also what happens is in cooler weather, they'll often try and close that termite mound up so that they can regulate the temperature to about 32 to 34 degrees Celsius within that mound. So there we go, Amy. Hope you Happy that you got to see these termites again. Nice. Luckily it's not tall enough that I'll hit it, so I'll still drive over it. I won't damage it at all. Well, not over it, just, yeah. That's still fine. It's been a bit of a quiet morning for Brian and I. We haven't seen too much. I wonder if it hasn't got something to do with this weather. And the temperature is quite cool. You can see, oh, we've got some elephant off to the right. Just as I say that, the bush helps us out. Hang on a second, I'm just going to turn around on this road. We might be able to get a little bit closer from that angle, from that side. Oh, and look here, some warthog. Just off to the right, don't run. There they go, just ran off there a little bit. There they are. Just as I say, we haven't seen too much. Warthog and elephant. That's great. I was saying, I wonder if the weather hasn't got something to do with it. Let me just turn around and head along this other road quickly. I wonder if the weather hasn't got something to do with it, because the temperature has dropped quite a bit from when we first went out on drive this morning. You can see I've got my jacket on, Brian's got his jacket on. It's much, much cooler. One of the coolest mornings that we've had in the last few days. So it's actually very pleasant. It's lovely to have some cool weather for a change. Hang on. Our warthogs are still off to the left. Oh, there we go. Now have a look at this. You can see this clearly now. See those long white hairs on the side of the face, and you can see there. Look at that, especially on that youngster. That is a younger warthog, a young female. The adult one was the one with the larger tusks. Was walking in the front. There we go, and you can see that. And see those big tusks. So the theory behind that long white hair is that when these young warthog grow these long whiskers or long white hair, it appears as if they've also got large tusks. So if predators do see them and are trying to hunt them, they probably think twice, because they think maybe they are also armed with those large tusks like an adult. So it's a defense mechanism. It's to try and deter predators from hunting them. And you could see on the adult, you could see those white tusks. They're almost in the same position. She also had some long white whiskers. It's also just to make sure that they stand out a little bit more. There we go. Let's have a look at our elephant off to our right. Just going to try and get us a nice little gap here. It's just actually hiding behind there now. How about through there, Brian? Is that okay? Look at that. Looks like a lone bull. Don't see any others around here. Just a young-ish bull. And he's just feeding happily on that tree. He looks so peaceful, so relaxed. Almost like he's watching us through there. But happily feeding away. These bull elephants are my favorite. There's just something about them. I think you could describe them as graceful. And just magnificent. I think that's even better. It's just, they are really magnificent animals. These wonderfully large beasts which walk the earth. It's incredible to be able to see them. We've been lucky almost on a daily basis. I think every drive we've seen elephant, which is great. There's a lot of elephant around at the moment. I love spending time with them. Look at those toenails. You can see the toenails on the feet. It's almost like this male is resting a little bit too. He is feeding, chewing on some branches. You can see there, but he's not really using his trunk too much. Probably resting a little bit. They do rest when they're standing up. Occasionally, and you saw him shift his weight a little bit there, but I've seen elephants where they lean to one side and they'll just rest and not quite doze off, but close their eyes, rest a little bit, and then they go again. Elephants do lie down though too if they do want to sleep or rest, but again, these animals don't sleep like we do. They don't need a lot of sleep. They will rest, however, and I have seen on a number of occasions elephants lying down completely on their side and having an hour rest. A lot of bird calls in the distance. Can hear the red-chested cuckoo again. And we were so fortunate we got to see one yesterday morning. That was great. And don't forget, all our viewers watching at the moment, send us your questions and comments either via Twitter at #Safarilive or email us questions@wildearth.tv, and we'll answer your questions, and we just love hearing from all of you. I always need to pinch myself at times just to basically remind myself that this is live and we've got viewers from all over the world watching, and it's incredible that we can be in the middle of Africa looking for animals and viewing them like this, and as we see it, you are seeing it back home. It really is fantastic. This hopefully sparks an interest. And perhaps some of you one day will come out on safari in South Africa, or in Africa in general, anywhere. Come and enjoy this with us. You can see that elephants actually strip the bark off of that branch. Wow. Look how he uses his tusks. And that's one of the main reasons for the tusks. That's why males and females have tusks. It's to help them break branches and feed. Wow, look at that. That's awesome. I think he's trying to get to more bark. Here we go. You might try and strip that off. Let's see. See, now he uses the trunk. Yeah. And he's stripping the bark off. So the bark is that little section of the tree that has all the nutrients and has basically the good stuff that the elephants want to feed on. It's got a cambium layer, which is the layer that transports the nutrients to the tree, and that's why they love feeding on bark. William has just asked us a question. I'm not sure if I heard it correctly. I think William asked, do elephants cry? And William, to be honest, I don't think so. I've never seen or heard of that before. I don't think elephants cry at all. You can occasionally you'll see residue and liquid forming around the eyes, but I definitely do not think it's tears. It's just like we sometimes get residue around our eyes when we wake up in the mornings. Similar thing happens with the elephants. You'll sometimes see this whitish substance around their eyes, but I've never seen an elephant cry. So Leroy has asked us a question, and Leroy would like to know, how big can a male elephant get? So Leroy, big African elephant can reach a weight of about 5 tons. I mean, it's easy just to describe the weight rather, but yeah, about 5 tons, and I think shoulder height of about 4 to 4.5 meters, which is really, really large. Let me see if I can find something quickly just on the height of an elephant. Yeah, so exactly, I'm right. It's so nice when I do get the weights and the sizes correct. But about 4 meters at shoulder height, 4.5 meters for big elephant, and 5 tons. Maybe big males, really big males, can maybe get up to 6 tons. And that is massive, so you can imagine. And it's hard to picture, but listen to it breaking those branches. It's hard to picture, but when you do get up close and personal with these animals, you see how big the large males are, especially when they're standing close to the females. They tower over them. What a lovely sighting with this elephant. It's so great to spend time with them. We're going to continue searching for some other animals, and while we do that, let's see what the lions are up to.
Now, Mr. Mfumo has decided to pop his head up and give us a nice view of his wound. Now, I think that it's healing quite nicely. Some of you may agree, but if you remember at one point, it almost looked like you could fit your entire hand inside his face because he had that very, very deep hole. And it's slowly starting to heal up. You can see that the flesh is lovely and pink, so it's healthy flesh. And of course there isn't a hole anymore. Yes, the skin has not attached itself yet, but that's what happens with a big gash. The wound needs to first heal, and then it is definitely going to take a couple of months for that skin to grow over and close that wound. And I think he'll have a really bad scar there for the rest of his life. Isn't that lovely though? Thank you, Mr. Mfumo, for putting your head up for us. Now, the reason why they are all scattered around like this, like just a moment ago, or actually maybe a few minutes ago, it happened so quickly in the blink of an eye. Some slender mongoose ran in the distance, and all the lions jumped up and tried to chase on, and the youngest lioness almost caught one of the mongooses too, which was very impressive, but luckily they got away. I think that those mongoose got the fright of their life. You can see one of the Nkuhumas has jumped up into the tree again. One of the younger ones, not as confident, and I think it's regretting its decision. Shouldn't have gone that far. Yeah, it's hard to jump off down onto the ground, though not high enough that it would hurt itself. It's not very steep, but I think from all the way up there and being so small, probably thinking, oh, how am I going to turn around? And that's what's so funny about the lion cubs, is that they don't think of their end plan. They just sort of live in the now, and what am I going to do right now? And then they get themselves stuck in all these situations, and they haven't thought of, oh, what happens next? But they will learn this as they get older. Oh, what are you going to do? Struggling a little bit. Yes, perhaps just sit down. It'll probably be a good bet. Going to try and have a little nap, just like the leopards do. Now we're looking at this cub, and this is one of the mangy cubs. And I know Deborah from South Carolina was wondering if there are any others that have mange. There's a couple. We need to have a proper look. There's one that's quite bad. The other cubs now, unfortunately, are hiding behind all the bushes. The two oldest cubs don't seem to show any signs of mange at all. And I thought I saw one more that looked a little bit mangy, but not really bad at all. Not bad. I think it's really just this one that's in the tree that is suffering from it the most, but we'll have another look when they come out into the open again. Remember, it's Tino, the male Birmingham, that has also got that skin condition. I think he is the source of where it has come from. Having a look up. No, I wouldn't go any higher. So I was desperately trying to turn around without falling off. Here we go, slowly but surely managing. And there's lots of little branches that keep poking. It doesn't know if to go under, to go around. Now that you've got yourself unstuck, where are you heading to next? You hear the hardy-dars all calling in the distance. And finally, the sun is starting to come out. It seems to be poking through the clouds now, which is very nice. The weather is quite bizarre at the moment. It almost looks like storms are rolling in, dark black clouds, sitting very low. And then they come over and absolutely nothing, not even a spit. And now the sun seems to be burning them all away, which is not what we wanted. We wanted to have one more downpour of rain. Oh wow, look how this lioness now. I'll go back to her. There's another lioness that's got up and has started eating. She's doing very well at separating the skin from all the flesh. She's finally getting herself some good chunks of meat. Can you hear her, how she's almost gnawing on that bone? And that's not to try and get the bone, of course. She's trying to get the flesh in between the ribs. The hardy-dars seem to be taking over out there. They seem to be the only birds I can hear at the moment. And we keep getting these wonderful wafts of lion dung that are all around, which are quite interesting smells. It was quite funny, as those two little cubs that we saw a moment ago feeding on the carcass, they got bored and full and they moved off and went and laid down. And it was almost exactly as they moved away or got out of sight, the lioness that was laying just in front of the carcass got up and said, "Right, it's my turn now," and went and started feeding on it, as we're seeing now. So she wasn't getting involved in any of the antics and growling, and I thought it was a very clever strategy just to wait until everybody had eaten, and of course there's going to be some left. Now she can eat in peace. So you can almost see the stomach lining there, that sort of thin piece of membrane, but they've already pulled out all the intestines, the heart, the liver, the lungs. They've pulled all of those out already. And that's just the skin. Now I'm just watching in the distance. It seems like one lioness. I don't think you'll be able to see her. I'll just tell you what's going on. It's one lioness has got up and moved a little bit further away, and I did hear a very soft contact call a moment ago, and she also led some of the cubs away with her. Now the male's on his way too. No, you're just going to test somebody's urine, possibly. Let's see what he does. That's a good bum photo. Let's see if he's doing the phlegm and grimace. Okay, he's waving his head around. Possibly one of the lionesses urinated there, and he's now testing her urine to see if she's coming into estrus or not. And I know there's quite a few new viewers today, so I'm going to just very quickly tell you about the vomeral nasal organ, or it's also known as the Jacobson organ, which is one of the very important sense organs for lions, and actually for a variety of different animals. And what that does is that they test the urine that's either been deposited on the ground, or they test it directly as the female is urinating. And basically there's this organ that sits between the top front teeth and of course the nose. And then they pass that urine into their mouths and into that sense organ, and they can then tell if a female is in estrus or not. And of course we get that beautiful sort of smile that you saw him do, which is called the phlegm and grimace. He's going to lay back down again. He's sitting very closely with amber eyes. Now, we've been speaking a lot about these male lions and the darkening of their manes, and Dayton wants to know, does the mane always start to darken at the bottom, or does it sort of depend on the individual lion? Now, Dayton, you've definitely got the right thought there, but it seems to always start around the chest, and the reason for that is because that's often where the mane first starts to develop. It starts to grow around the side of their face, and then of course on their chest, and then it grows around the rest of the body. So with that being, I suppose you could say, more mature hair, it is the first to see the darkening. You can see there's a few sprigs of dark hair coming through on top of the mane now towards the middle of his head. He's almost got like a dark patch over there. But eventually that should all go black, hopefully. Well, we're hoping that it does. It's always nice to see dark-maned lions. But I'm just happy to see lions in general. Little cub. Looks like it's using the luxury facilities, that vulnerable position. Looks like it went away to try and get some privacy, but here we are. Oh, wow. Look at Miss Lioness over here. She's tearing away at this buffalo now. Now you can see as she sticks her head in the kill, she closes her eyes, and I know that Manu spotted that and wants to know why they do that. Now it's probably just because of all the pokey bits that are around. Their eyes are obviously quite sensitive and they rely on them heavily. So I think when they go into the kills, to avoid being pricked by a bone that's perhaps broken, or even if the animal is still alive and they're in the process of killing it, I don't know if you've seen, they often will close their eyes too, just in case they do get a hoof to the face or something like that. There is some sort of protection. So it's almost the same way as when giraffe feed as well. When they stick their heads into those thorn trees, they keep them closed, but of course they've got those lovely thick eyelashes as well, which add valuable protection. Giving it a little shake. She's worked very hard on this carcass. Oh no, here come the terrorists again. Luckily this lioness had a few moments of peace though. But unfortunately she's going to have to endure the little lion cubs who have been harassing everybody that comes near the carcass. Now HQ, you're wondering if the carcasses ever smell bad to the lions. I'm sure if they come across a carcass, which we came across the other day, which was riddled with maggots and it smelt revolting to myself and Eggsy, I'm sure they probably turn their nose up a little bit. But it doesn't always matter. Like I said, if that was any other pride of lion and not the pride that's as successful as the Nkuhumas, they would have carried on eating away at it. I don't think they would have left it at all. So I think to some degree, remember their scent is very, very sensitive, but I also don't think that they can tell the difference, sort of like how we are always like, oh, this smells really appetizing, and you know, oh, that's not very nice. And I think it probably varies from lion to lion. Like with humans, some of us can take smells better than others. Like I know a few people who can't even put the refuse out, the rubbish, because of the smell that you can sometimes get from a bin. So I think it depends on your stomach. So I think it varies slightly, but no, they don't particularly mind the smell of rotting meat. Lions are largely scavengers. I just don't understand how these little cubs keep fitting more and more into their stomachs. They're going to explode. I think we're going to have to leave these Nkuhumas. I'm sure there's someone else that needs to come in and have a look, and unfortunately there's not a lot of space for more than 2 vehicles. So I think we've had a great time and spent a good amount or fair amount of time with them this morning. But let's go back across to Byron.
Hello everyone again. We have still had no luck. We've been searching all over. We've literally driven all over Djuma this morning and just no sign of any leopard. But hang on, I've just got to Sydney's Dam. I have a look here. We've got a herd of buffalo coming down to drink, or that are drinking. That's great. There we go. You can probably see them from here clearly. There, they all are down there. Oh, the dam's looking nice and full. Oh, that's great. Hang on. Brian, if we can move just over there, there's a dead tree further left if you keep coming, and have a look there, everyone. In that tree, there's a gymnogene. Can you see that a little bit low down there? An African harrier hawk, and it's trying to raid the nest of the starlings. Watch that. Oh, fantastic. Look how that bird is trying to get into the nest or into that tree. And the starlings are mobbing it. The red-billed buffalo weavers are around there too. So this used to be known as a gymnogene, and its new name is the African harrier hawk. I'd like to see if there's something that this bird does, and keep watching it. Its face is yellow at the moment, but when they do get mobbed, often that face turns red very quickly. There you can actually see it turning slightly pinkish. And it can go bright red. Look at that. Can you see that, everyone? It changes its color immediately. There, look at that. And I think what happens is it increases the blood flow to the face, and it gets that reddish color. And we'll see if it does flower off, if it calms down, if it goes back to yellow. And that's usually when it gets mobbed. So as I was saying, this used to be known as the gymnogene. It's now the African hawk eagle. Sorry, African harrier hawk, the African harrier hawk. And this bird is an expert at raiding nests. Can you see those long legs? And what they're able to actually bend their knees incredibly well, so that they're able to almost move upside down and stick their long necks and heads into the nest to raid the nests for chicks. Or potential eggs that might be in there, but mainly the chicks that are in the nest. That's beautiful. But you see, it's still got that bright pink coloration to the face, and we'll see if it does change back. There, look at those birds, the starlings mobbing it, and the drongo trying to chase it away, because it is a bird of prey. Even the blacksmith lapwing came in there for a second. There they go. Look at that. Wow, Brian, amazing camera work. Thank you. This is incredible. Look at that. Just hiding in there now. But it's amazing to see how the other birds mob it to try and get it away. There's a bird of prey, and they know that this bird especially is probably interested in the nests and the chicks. So you see all those birds around there. They're all calling and they're all mobbing this eagle. Or this bird of prey rather, not quite an eagle, the harrier hawk. Trying to see if that face has changed color again. There it goes. There it goes. But you see that color has changed slightly. It's a bit lighter, but it's still being mobbed. There it goes. Those birds are not leaving it alone at all. Yeah, the fork-tailed drongos don't give up either. This is fantastic. I just heard the starlings calling, and as I glanced over, I saw the harrier hawk trying to raid the nest. Wow, fantastic. Look at that. Oh, wow. It's much closer now. They are not happy. There it goes. Gee, Brian still managed to stick with it. Incredible. But look how they're mobbing it. They're not giving up. Keep hitting it. You see, it's just trying to get into some thicker trees now, trying to hide away from the birds. But wasn't that amazing? And you could see a slight color change in that face. And have a look. I'm just going to show you in the book quickly, and the color that they've got for it, for the African harrier hawk. And look right up here. There we go. You can see, we could see the black markings and the white banding. And look at that yellow face. Do you see that? So usually yellow, and then when they are mobbed or feeling threatened, it turns bright red, or that pinkish red coloration. almost immediately. It's incredible how they're able to change the color. It's obviously got to do with some blood capillaries that they then cause the blood flow to increase to the face. That causes that red coloration. Very, very interesting. That was lovely. And there's buffalo, and have a look at the zebra out here too, just to the right of the buffalo. So a lot coming down to drink. And when all of this is going on, who needs a leopard? I'm just joking. We will definitely still try and find a leopard. I know a lot of our viewers enjoy the leopards in this area, and they are beautiful cats. But it's also so wonderful to appreciate everything else going on around here. And that's the thing that's so amazing about the bush, is there's always something going on in nature. But that was a very special sighting of that African harrier hawk, and to see it trying to raid a nest and the birds chasing it off. Nice group of zebra. I know Taylor was chatting to you about collective nouns for animals, and I wonder if she mentioned the zebra. I'm sure she did. A dazzle of zebra. That's what a group of zebra are known as, is a dazzle. I think it's quite fitting. They do appear to be quite dazzling when they're running together in a group. One or two young zebra foals there. The one is much younger. Still a few buffalo drinking. So Anna Maria has asked us a question about their gymnogene, and Anna Marie would like to know, why did they change the name to the African harrier hawk? Anna Marie, I have absolutely no idea. So actually a number of bird names changed many years ago, I think in the late 90s, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't know, apparently the reasoning is that they tried to create an international standard for the naming of birds. So a lot of some of the birds, like the plovers, which we often get around here, the blacksmith plover, which we saw flying after the gymnogene earlier as it flew over the waterhole, and that's now called the blacksmith lapwing. So there have been a number of bird name changes, and apparently it was because they wanted to create this standard, an international standard. But I do find it quite strange. A lot of the bird names aren't similar to that, to birds which look similar overseas. So I don't know where it came from. I always joke and say, I wonder if it's because the bird book sales perhaps started to dip a little bit. maybe they needed to sell more bird books, so they changed the name so people had to buy them. But I'm just joking, I don't know. But the official reasoning is because they wanted to create an international standard. So a lilac-breasted roller flying past, but it's not calling, so I don't think it's going to do a display for us. I don't think it will. Well, this was a lovely little stop. Great surprise. Buffalo, zebra. And that gymnogene. Just going to try to turn around here a little bit, head up the road and see what else we can find. See, things are starting to happen for us. James has asked a very interesting question. James would like to know, would an African harrier hawk be able to raid a den of a genet? Genets do sometimes leave their young in holes of trees and that. And would a young genet be too big for an African harrier hawk? Would they be able to raid a nest or a little den almost for these genets? It's a good question, James, and I'm not sure, to be honest. I'm not sure. To be honest, I've never heard of an African harrier hawk raiding the nest of a genet and attacking young genet. I wonder. See, also the thing that why I would think it's unlikely, and now these are just theories and thinking about animal behavior and why it possibly couldn't happen, James, because African harrier hawks are all diurnal. So they're active during the day. They will raid nests during the day and then obviously sleep, find a perch and sleep at night. Genets are active at night. So generally, mostly active at night, and they are nocturnal. So the thing is, if there is a den or a little nest of that a genet has, the adult would most likely be in there, and during the day. And if an African harrier hawk comes to the nest or to the entrance, then that adult will defend the nest and look after the young, defend the young, so probably chase off the African harrier hawk. So it's unlikely, but I'm not 100% sure. I've just never heard of it before, and that would be my theory, is that it's probably unlikely because of the different behavior and the times of day that they are active. A good question, James. It's interesting. It's nice to get questions like that, make you think a little bit about nature and about how the animals behave and what animals would potentially eat. And it's not to say they won't go for something that large. It probably could. I've seen a little lilac-breasted roller catch a mouse during the day, and the mouse was about this big, and I mean the lilac-breasted roller is only this large, and it's unusual for them to catch mice, of all things, little rodents. And it caught it, killed it, tried to feed on it, and got it halfway down the beak. And incredibly, it was too big. It couldn't swallow it and spat it out and eventually flew off. Just couldn't eat the mouse. But it still killed it. So it's interesting. Animals will still try, if it's potential food, they'll try and eat it no matter what. So it sounds like Taylor's finally left the lions. They had so much to eat this morning. She's at Buffelshoek Dam. Let's see what she's found over there.
We are indeed just bypassing Buffelshoek Dam. There is nothing around at the moment, and my next plan is to head towards those carcasses of the buffalo that we've been seeing over the last few days, sort of on Drakensberg Road, and then of course the other one on Mamba. And if you remember last night, I said that I wanted to come back and have a look and see if perhaps the hyenas had got to them yet with all the vulture activity we experienced yesterday. So that's what I think we're going to stick with this morning and just see how it is. We're just bumbling along until we get there, and I'm sure we'll bump into all sorts of very exciting things along the way, as we normally do. Now, I'm also checking very carefully for any signs of leopard tracks. They haven't been around for the last few days. It does sound like Karula is down in the south, and so is Tandi with her cubs. They're just out of our traversing area, but hopefully it won't be too long before they come back home. Andrew, I know that you were also wondering about Shadow and where she is. I haven't seen her, and Herbert has been out this morning trying to help her search, and he checked some of her favorite spots sort of around Triple M and the southwestern corner all along there, and he says he hasn't seen any tracks just yet, and I haven't heard any updates on her yet. So Tingana last night was just in Torchwood, but they can't find him this morning. That's why I'm coming a little bit further east, because it sounded like he wasn't too far from Cheetah Cut Line, but no sign just yet. But we will keep an eye out. You know, sometimes I'm convinced that these animals jump over the road so that we can't find them and follow them, and it's all right. Luckily for us, we've had the Nkuhumas who have been keeping us entertained and also keeping that cat count going. Just have a look here. No, just lots of buffalo tracks. Now, Gamer, you're wondering when was the last time we spotted a cheetah? We were actually very lucky. A couple of afternoons ago, we went all the way across to Cheetah Plains, and we came across two brothers, which was very exciting. And it seems like they'd come from Mala and then come north. Now, maybe that's something we can do this afternoon, is perhaps we'll go across to Cheetah Plains. I haven't been there for a few days, and just see what's happening on that side. We need to go when it's not too windy, though, otherwise Cheetah Plains is unfortunately not very pleasant, as with it being quite open, especially when you get to the far eastern corner, it can be quite treacherous. And when there's lots of wind, of course, we know unfortunately there don't seem to be too many animals around with it. But it's okay. But let's see, if the sun comes out and perhaps these clouds lift, I think it would be quite a nice day to go across and have a look and explore. Maybe we get lucky and we pick up on a leopard that side, or we see one of the others on like I said, on our way there. My goodness, the elephants have done all sorts of crazy things over the last few days, blocking all the roads. Eggsy, we've got to squeeze through here. It's a very tight squeeze with all the branches. Luckily, not a tree with thorns on. There's nothing worse than getting hooked by a buffalo thorn or even a knob thorn. Acacias aren't so bad because those thorns are quite sharp and sort of almost look more like a spine because they're so long. They're not a spine, they're a thorn though. And with the buffalo thorns, we'll try and find one, or a knob thorn. They've got two different types of thorns, one that hooks you and then one that pokes you. So we'll try and see if we can find some. I just want to check here that there's nothing around. Nope, doesn't seem like anything just yet. We're actually making our way straight to Cheetah Cut Line, and we're going to go straight down it. Or we might go straight down Drakensberg. I haven't quite decided just yet. But it seems to be getting cooler now. The sun poked its head out for a little bit, and now it's gone. The clouds are thick and covering the sky. I'm hoping that we get rain. I hope it pours with rain. Right, we have now arrived at Cheetah Cut Line. Just check very carefully around here to see if Tingana perhaps didn't cross into our traverse. It seems as though I was the first person to drive the road we were just on, so it didn't seem any tracks, so it doesn't look like there's anything here at this junction. Okay, that's all right though. We'll persevere and keep looking. There's nothing around here at the moment. You're wondering what the most endangered animal is in this area besides the African wild dogs. I'm going to have to go with the southern ground hornbills, which we saw earlier with Byron, and we've been seeing, actually quite lucky to be seeing a family of them hanging around, which is quite nice. Unfortunately, there's not very many left of them. There's probably only a couple of hundred left in this greater Kruger area, and not more, I wouldn't say not more than about 1,000 pairs left in Africa. So unfortunately, it's not massive numbers, but there are all sorts of different types of efforts that they're trying to do to try and help breed and help save the population. Now, I'm completely blown away at how things change out here in the bush. If you remember 3 mornings ago, this is where all the action was happening from. This area was littered with buffalo, it was littered with lions, there were zebras, there were wildebeest, there were vultures, there was every species of animal hanging around here. And now this morning, there is nothing. Haven't even seen one impala. But I'm going to carry on looking for those carcasses. Let's go back to Byron, who's got a real live buffalo.
And have a look at this. We found some more buffalo. But what's interesting is watch them drinking out of this little pool of water. And that's one of the benefits of the rain that we had yesterday, or the night before last. These little mud pans or pools are filled up with water, and animals are now able to get drink wherever they are. If you have a look, these buffaloes still aren't really in great condition. That one just decided to walk straight through it. They're still looking a bit thin, and that's because there's not a lot of food around, but at least there is water, and hopefully the food will start growing again. A lot more grass shooting out. And these buffalo aren't too far from Nkuhuma Road, which is where those lions have got the kill from last night. So I wonder if they didn't perhaps hunt this group and got one of these. And I commented on them being a little bit thin and not in great condition, and that's why it's making it very easy for these lions to hunt the buffalo, because they're not as powerful and not as fast as they probably would be in the middle of summer when there's a lot of food around. So they are a bit weaker, a bit easier for some of the predators to hunt them, especially the lions. So Viola has just sent us a question, and Viola would like to know, are there African tribes which hunt in this area? And Viola, not in this area that we are. This area is a protected game reserve. So we are part of the Greater Kruger National Park. So there are no tribes within this area, and there's no hunting allowed. It's illegal to hunt in the national parks. So unlike areas in East Africa, I know the Maasai and that, one of the tribes up there, and they are able to hunt. I think they are permitted to hunt within or around the game reserves, because they have been there for many, many, many years, and that's how those tribes survive. But out here, there weren't many tribes to begin with, and over the years, with the protection of land and people moving out into other areas, there are no tribes, traditional tribes, within the game reserves anymore. There are still communities and tribes outside of the game reserves, but those people generally still farm and look after livestock, and that's their livelihood, and that's what they survive on. Some impala dotted around through the thicket off to our left. We're driving along a road now. It's a nice open section, and just to our left there's a nice dense thick area, or a drainage line. You can see a lot more vegetation over there because there's probably a lot more water down there. These drainage lines, that's where all the water moves down from the crest area from the rain. It seeps down and gathers down, and the water in these drainage lines where the water table is probably a lot higher. So a lot of vegetation growing around here. We're going to continue our search for any potential leopards around, or any sign of leopard at least. While I do that, let's get another update from Taylor.
Now I want you to turn your volume up, because these birds are going crazy about something. No, of course they're not making one noise. So the starlings are panicking quite a bit, the Cape glossy starlings. You can see them sort of diving into that wooded area, and there were lots of other birds around, all alarming as well, from the woodpeckers, which I thought was quite unusual, to a drongo and a few other smaller bill. The waxbills were around as well, all shouting. Now, I'm not sure what's going on and why they're making such a noise, but there were quite a few of the starlings. There seems to be the two now, and they keep jumping in there and then flying away. Now, it could be as if it's something like a snake, maybe. Maybe there's a nest in there, but I can't see anything just yet. But you can hear they are extremely unhappy about something in there. We're just having a look. You see how they keep flying down? But however, I think it is further. Here we go. If someone else has joined the party as well. I can't really see who you are just yet. But they all seem to be getting quite angry and acting quite aggressively to whatever is inside there. It has calmed down quite a bit now. They were making a real racket a few moments ago. And it seems as though quite a few of the starlings have also moved off. Like I said, there was a whole group of them all going absolutely ballistic. Now they've settled down. Okay, I'm not sure what it is, unfortunately, but I hope that it isn't a snake eating their eggs. Well, it would be nice for the snakes, seeing as though they've been hiding away for quite some time. It could be something completely different, of course. But for now, it is a mystery as to what has got the starling's feathers all ruffled. But now, we just need to head off, and we're going to go and check that buffalo carcass, which we checked last night, the one that was still intact. So we're going to go through here. You're right there, Eggsy. So we're going under some trees. Eggsy just needs to drop the antenna very quickly. There we go. And we're through. We're right there. Hey, let's find this carcass. It's just up ahead. It's not too far away. I still can't see any vultures. I just need to remember exactly where it is. Go through these trees, this little gap here. I can see it from here. Oh, we're going to go around this way. We're not too far away now. We're actually very close. It's just that we can't, unfortunately, go as the crow flies with all the branches and sticks and things around. I'm sure there's going to be lots more maggots crawling around in this buffalo. Here we go. Almost there. Ooh. Luckily, it's not too thick in here. Ooh. It's starting to smell delicious. I'm going to hide my nose a little bit. I'm not going to park anywhere near it like I did yesterday because it is very smelly. Let's have a look at the buffalo. There you go. You can see it. You just need to readjust very quickly. Well, you can see it, and you can see how it's bloated up almost double the size to what it was yesterday. Even its neck, the entire body is starting to expand now. I wouldn't want to be here when it bursts. And like I said, I was describing yesterday, the smells that are going to come out of this buffalo will be horrifying and probably make me possibly get sick. But nothing has touched it. Not a vulture, not a hyena. It is still completely intact. Maybe nothing knows that it's here just yet, because we would have seen those vultures come in, especially the white-backed vultures. They've got a strong enough build to open up this buffalo. They could easily tear through that hide. Can we see any more maggots, or have they also perhaps moved on? Oh, no, they haven't. They're still here. Lots and lots of maggots. They seem to be the only ones that are indeed eating this buffalo. Well, here's to the fly population increasing over the next few weeks. Going to have to get that elephant dung out and start burning it right away. And I know that this is can be quite gruesome. But this is just one of those things, I'm afraid. And I really am surprised that nothing has come through yet. Perhaps there's just such an abundance of food around at the moment due to the drought, the animals taking strain, that perhaps they are being able to be a bit picky, which is something that we don't normally see with the wildlife. They take whatever they can get. But I think we'll continue following up on this buffalo and just trying to see what's going to happen next. If anybody is going to come and eat it, if it's going to burst open. Perhaps then if it does burst, if the stomach is somewhere along the lines of the air starts escaping, I think then possibly we are going to then maybe get some activity, like I said, that smell. And we know that sense of smell is what a lot of the animals rely on most. Perhaps then it'll entice the hyenas. I always find the stinkier a carcass, the more the hyenas seem to enjoy it. Okay, but we're going to move on now to the next buffalo carcass. We're going to head around to Mamba Road. But let's go to Byron, who has got some bird for you.
I do have some birds, and these are very interesting birds. African cuckoos, everyone. Oh, fantastic. 2 African cuckoo. Wow, we've had a great morning with birding. And this might be a first for a lot of you. You don't often see these African cuckoos. And there they disappear. Oh, wonderful. African cuckoo, that's great. That is really nice. You don't see them often. You know, a lot of these cuckoos are most of these cuckoos, all of them are migrants. So it's great to have them all back for the summer. And the African cuckoo, you don't hear them that often, but they've got a call similar to a hoopoo. It's just, if I'm not mistaken, it's extended slightly. And I mean, my bird calls aren't great at the best of times, but it's I think, something like that. I'm not very good at an African cuckoo call. So it's a little extended, but you do hear them occasionally. But it's great to see them because these cuckoos are very secretive birds. And the other species of cuckoos around here, the red-chested cuckoo, the Diedrich's cuckoo, Klaas's cuckoo, Levalen's cuckoo, Jacobin cuckoo. So all those cuckoos are found around here. It's great to see the African cuckoo. That is really, really nice. A lot of impala and that around in these areas. We've seen more zebra also dotted through the thickets. There's a lot of animal activity around here. This is great. We've been very fortunate. Well, since I've got here, we've seen so much. And it's wonderful to see general game. We call them general game. A lot of the antelope species, the zebra, these animals that are predominantly herbivores and grazers or mixed feeders. They feed on leaves or on the grass, the browsers like the kudu. It's wonderful to see so many different species of animals because that also then will bring predators. And as we've seen with the lions have been very successful on Djuma for the last 49 days. I think today is 49 days of seeing lions for Safarilive, which has been fantastic. That's really lucky. I know a lot of lodges that go through days where they don't see lions. So to have a streak like that is incredible. still very cool this morning, and that's good. That could possibly mean that some of the predators would still move around, like leopard. Leopards actually do move around a lot during the day, more so than we actually know. And I've been fortunate enough, I've worked in areas and followed and tracked leopard for many, many years and seen their behavior, and they move around during the day, even though a lot of people thought they're mainly nocturnal, but they do move during the day, and they will hunt during the day too, especially on mornings like this when it's nice and cool. If it does get hot, then they also tend to move around into thickets or drainage lines and look for shelter from the heat and from the sun, and then they'll spend the day there. And you can see the cloud cover Brian is on at the moment, so it is still very cool. We've still got our jackets on, lovely temperature. It's great to have cool weather every now and then, gives us a bit of a break from the heat. Soraya has asked us an interesting question about sunscreen. Soraya would like to know, do all of us wear sunscreen while we're out on game drive? Yes, we do. My tan has got even darker the last little while I've been here, but we all do put sunscreen on. We have to, because the sun can get very harsh out here, especially the times that we are out in the afternoons. It's very, very hot, so we do need to wear sunscreen. So we're going to carry on searching through these. Oh, there's a lovely little bird I'd like to show you. Let's see if Brian can get it. Did you see it there, Brian? Oh, there we go. A Bird-il-licous cuckoo. So this is a cuckoo, not a cuckoo. A C-O-U-C-A-L, the cuckoo, the Bird-il-licous cuckoo. Now this bird, interestingly enough, is often referred to as the rain bird, and it's got a wonderful call, and the belief is, there you can see white underneath and this rufous brown back and wings. So a lot of locals believe that if you hear the Bird-il-licous cuckoo calling, it's probably going to rain. It's just flown off there now, Brian. The Bird-il-licous cuckoo, if you hear it calling, chances are it's going to rain that day. And it's got this beautiful call, something like that. Again, my bird calls are terrible, but I'm trying my best. And so nice to see that Bird-il-licous cuckoo. See, Brian's been amazing on camera this morning with all the birds. Thanks so much, Brian. We're going to continue searching along this drainage line and see if we've got any other activity around here, but we've been very fortunate with birds. Taylor seems to have more dead buffalo.
So we're back at the carcass in which we saw the lions feeding on about 3 evenings ago now. Remember, we were here yesterday morning and we saw all the vultures sitting on top of this young buffalo that was taken down. Now, there's just one vulture here. There were a couple of others, but we know what they're like. As soon as we arrived, they seemed to fly away, but hopefully they'll come back again. They weren't feeding. They were just sort of standing around it. You can see that the buffalo there looks a little bit on the skinnier side, I think, from all the flesh that they've eaten on the inside. And I'm sure there's still plenty of meat here. I can see legs that are still whole and have got lots of flesh on, but no signs of hyenas, not even a footprint coming down this road of a hyena, which is quite interesting. So, like I said, there must be so much food around at the moment that it's not necessary for something like a hyena to scavenge too far and wide. Because most nights when we come out, and we haven't actually been seeing a lot of the hyena tracks, well, I haven't. And I think that's exactly why. Normally every day you come out and the road is littered with hyena footprints. But it's only going to be a matter of time before they come back again, and I look forward to their arrival. But Mr. Whiteback Vulture over here, standing guard, we can see very full, not hungry at all. I suppose they just roosted in the area last night, and at first light they came back down and started feeding again. And this process will continue until there's absolutely nothing left. And of course the maggots are also doing their bit too, feeding away. But of course nothing quite devours a carcass like a flock of vultures. They can be quite ravenous, and we were really lucky to experience that yesterday. Sorry. There was a dung beetle that was flying. Hang on. Oh, and then I almost just swallowed the buffalo. Excuse me, I'm just having a little moment here. I'm just going to drive away from the carcass. So sorry. It's... That was a terrible smell. You can see my eyes are watering, and that should be a good indication as to how horrific that smell was. Now, I can't go back. I can't do it. Otherwise, it's just too terrible. But why I was initially laughing, Eggsy's also crying, now he's laughing at me, was it was a big dung beetle, one of those large copper dung beetles that was flying along, and it flew straight into the apple leaf tree and then flew and fell down on the ground. And I happened to watch the entire thing happen. It was very, very funny. So I apologize, but we're going to move away from that carcass now, otherwise I'm definitely going to be ill. That was very pungent. All of a sudden, the wind sort of swirled and changed direction as I was talking, and we all know how much I love to talk. And that smell went straight into my nasal cavity and straight down my throat. So I got a double whammy of rotting buffalo. Not pleasant at all. That was not nice. I'm just taking a moment just to gather myself, okay? Wipe the tears away. Oh, no. Now, that's always really funny, is that you go into sightings. This is one of the things I used to hate when guiding guests, is because I couldn't control myself. If I start to gag, like I feel like I'm going to get sick, well, then that's the end of me. And I will continue. I won't be able to talk to anybody. That's why I decided to very quickly move away from there before I started the downward spiral. But here are some of the other vultures. No, don't fly. No, well, typical. There they go. You can see them disappearing now. And I presume they were at some point feeding on their carcass this morning. There's still quite a few of them around in the area. Whew, okay, I'm feeling a little bit better now. Thank you and sorry for that. I think Eggsy was hoping he was going to see some action this morning coming from me, but no, Eggsy, not today. I will not. I'm wondering... Oh, hang on, actually, I wanted to show you somebody who's on my bonnet. Let me quickly get whoever we've got here. I'm going to quickly just... Maybe I can just stand. I could probably just do this. I'm sorry, you're going to hear lots of clanging and cluttering as I reach across. Look who I've got here. No, don't fly. Come back. Come back. I'm going to catch it. It's a moth, but it's a really pretty one. It's not Gregory from yesterday. Come here. It's in the box. No, come out of the box. It's gone down into the box of great things that holds... okay, I'll have to fish it out. We'll get it a little bit later. But it was a beautiful moth, a red moth. A little bit similar looking to Gregory from yesterday morning. I think we had... Was it yesterday? No, it was the morning before. My goodness. Oh, something else we can look for today is perhaps the terrapins. I don't think we've seen any terrapins just yet, and there's been quite a few of them in all the puddles of water that are around. So if we find a nice puddle, I'll have a look and see if we can't perhaps show you a little terrapin. But we are definitely also going to head down to the southern boundary now and just do a little drive and have a check around. We know these leopards with these young cubs. Sorry, I'm just checking. I keep thinking I've seen something, but it isn't. It's just a log. Like I said, those cubs like to move during the day with their mothers. But let's very quickly go across to Byron, who's got a bird.
Hang on. Hello everyone, we've got a scimitarbill. There it sits, there we go. Look at that, a scimitarbill. This is great. Wow, we've had a lot of luck with birds this morning. Our birding's been fantastic. I wonder if you can hear it calling there. That doo, 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 doo. Look at that long, sharp, curved beak. And that allows it, let's just see where it goes. It's still flying around there. So, let me, it's just flown off now. Show you in the book here. It's part of the Nkuhuma family. And there's the common scimitarbill over there, and that long curved beak allows it to occasionally feed on nectar from flowers, but also it feeds on insects. And that is how you spell scimitarbill, the common scimitarbill. And one of the birds that looks similar to it is this green wood hoopoe, that one over there with that long red beak, but this is a bit larger and that beak is much thicker. This is a very thin beak. And that is the African hoopoe just over there, and we can hear one calling just off to our left, but I can't seem to see it at the moment. I think it's in a tree, but lovely to see that common scimitarbill. That's nice. That is really good. So I just heard something back here. I just want to have a look. There's some birds making a noise in the trees. Just scan here quickly, give me a second. There's some starlings, and I see a grey go-away bird. And I wonder if they're just not unhappy with the grey go-away bird. Oh, possibly. It's always good just to, if you do hear birds like this making a noise, I can hear some oxpeckers in there too. Maybe the oxpeckers around. Possibly a nest, an oxpecker nest in there. And the reason why I look very carefully in the tree, when you hear birds, often birds alarm calling like that, they could alert you to any one of many different predators, a snake, another bird of prey, perhaps an owl or something sitting in there. Birds will also alarm call at predators walking around, maybe a leopard walking through the thicket. So it's always good just to have a look and see what they are alarm calling at or what's disturbed them. I think in this case, I think it's a bunch of oxpeckers in the nest and a few starlings just around them, that's all. And Aaron from New Zealand has asked us a question about the osprey and when they return. Now, Aaron, if I'm not mistaken, the osprey don't migrate. I think they're here throughout the year. Let me double check for you quickly, but yeah, your question has thrown me now a little bit. We don't have osprey in this area. So the osprey prefer estuaries and wetlands. We don't often see them around these areas. They're along the coastlines mainly. But I have seen an osprey once in Londolozi, so just south of here. I saw an osprey once last year actually, which was very interesting, and I don't think it had been seen there before. So, but generally speaking, they do not occur in this area. Let me just see. So I'm just trying to page and drive and scan at the same time. Let me just stop here for a second. Let's just have a look, Aaron, because that is an interesting question. But the osprey, as I said, as far as I know, they do not migrate. They are here throughout the year. Almost there. Hold on. Aaron, I apologize, I am wrong. So they do migrate and they arrive back in August, September, around August, September. So that's very interesting. I don't know, because I think it's one of the reasons is we don't get many osprey around us. I haven't seen many. I've only seen osprey twice in my life. One down in the coast in the southern part of South Africa, and the one at Londolozi last year. But so they do migrate, which I didn't know. I wasn't aware of that. So thanks for that question, Aaron. And it says that they usually arrive around August to September. So they're probably around, and they have arrived back, but again, not in this area. They prefer wetlands and estuaries. So we don't really see them around here. But that is, I'm just trying to see what else they say. Yeah, mostly exactly lagoons, estuaries, and some inland lakes. So not in this area. It's a bit too dry for them. I think the one that I saw at Londolozi was only there because it was along a permanent river. So there's a lot of water around, and that's why that osprey was there. And you see, it's great to have questions like that. You learn something new all the time, especially even with us that work out in the bush, and we go to different areas, and I go to many different areas, and even for myself, I've only seen osprey once or twice and don't know very much about them unless you read up on all these birds. Another African cuckoo flying over us, just past us. Unless you read up on these birds, I think it just sat up at the top of the tree there. Oh, there it goes again. See how lucky we were to see them earlier. So unless you're reading up on these birds, especially various migrants, because some migrants also don't always migrate. They may be found here throughout the year, and possibly migrate different, or well, they might skip a year and stay in an area depending on the rainfall, the food. So it all depends. Some birds will migrate every year, and others that are said to be migratory species might stay. So James has asked a question about the cuckoos that we saw, or cuckoos in general, and James would like to know, are there any cuckoo species in the area that lay their own eggs, or lay their eggs and then in a nest, their own nest, and raise the chicks themselves and are not brood parasites? So James, no, all the cuckoos are brood parasites. They all lay their eggs in other birds' nests, and other birds raise their chicks. And I always find that fascinating, is the chicks of the cuckoos never come into contact with the adults, but yet they know that they need to migrate every year, and they migrate north out of southern Africa for the winter and return again for the summer. So it is incredible how these animals just know, these birds just know that it's just instinct that they have to migrate. I read something interesting the other day, again about instinct, and it's written in their DNA, it's genetic, how some animals and birds know what their role is in nature. So there was a species of weaver. They did this experiment a few years ago. They took this weaver, and this weaver would only use a certain grass that it would then build its nest with. So what they did was they took some weavers, they put them in captivity, they took away all the grass materials, so these birds were unable to build their own nests. They allowed them to lay eggs. They still bred and they still lay eggs, but they didn't have the nesting material to build those nests. And they kept them in there for 3 or 4 generations. So these birds never once had plant material to build nests. And about 4 generations later, they took those birds out, those chicks eventually, they put them out into a natural environment with the correct nesting material that they would find in their normal habitat. And those birds actually built their own nest just like they are meant to. So for 4 generations of not building a nest, of not knowing or not even having the plant material around, they still knew that that was the grass that they needed, and that is how the nest has to be built. Isn't that amazing? It's fascinating. Really is fascinating. So I think it's the same with the migrations. The birds just know it's time to leave, and somehow they know, instinct tells them where they need to go. Right, and on that note, with all the birds and instinct, I wonder if Taylor's got an instinct of where we can find some leopard.
No birds and no leopards, I'm afraid, just yet. And I believe that there have been quite a few requests to head to the dam cam and have a look and see what Gowrie Dam is looking like. Well, we're going to go there now. But before we do, I have got a bird. I lied. We've got a red-billed hornbill hopping away just down below us. You shall see it in just a moment. There we go. You can see it hopping around now and gone out of view, perhaps looking for something to eat. Oh, it looks like it's doing quite well. What have you got there? Perhaps some termites? Probing around there. No, nothing. And it's coming back out again. Now remember, yesterday morning we had such great fun watching those red-billed hornbills build their nest. Wasn't that amazing to see? And don't worry, I haven't forgotten where it is. Ooh, you see that one trying to go for an insect that flew over its head. But perhaps, oh, there we go, look at that. Off it goes. Did you see that hornbill, how it had a big beetle of some sort in its mouth? Now, Jason, you're wondering if these hornbills are related to the southern ground hornbill. They are indeed. They're sort of distant cousins of each other. We see quite a few different species of hornbill. We see, of course, the red-billed hornbill, which we've seen this morning. And right now, we see the southern ground hornbills, which Byron had this morning. We see the yellow-billed hornbills, occasionally the crowned, and sometimes the trumpeter too. And not to forget, number 6, the African grey hornbill, which is one of my favorites. Now, we're going to carry on. We're going to head around towards the dam and see if Henry the hippopotamus is perhaps there. Maybe even catch those lions coming down for a drink one last time. But we've got a little bit of a way to go, not too far. A few little bumps and corners to go around before we eventually get there. We'll just take it easy through here. I don't want to lose. Ooh, those brakes are so squeaky. Okay, up and around the corner we go. Just checking. It's a nice area for birds, perhaps looking for the first woodlands kingfisher. Now, Gamer wants to know if we've ever wanted to sort of reach out and touch any of the animals or even feed them. Now, Gamer, of course, as we're sitting here in these vehicles, it's such a human thing to want to reach out and just touch the lion on the head or an elephant as it walks past, because they come so close to the vehicle. And obviously, we sit here and we have to say to ourselves, no, you can't do that. Firstly, it's probably not going to end very well. Especially because they're wild and they're not used to being touched or anything along those lines. But no, we don't. We don't even feed them, even though the conditions can get quite bad. They are used to these cycles of droughts, and they don't happen all the time. They just happen every couple of years or so. And they're able to push through. Like we always say, the strongest will survive. But yes, there's always that urge. And it's one of the things that I found when you are guiding guests around, is that it's sometimes so hard to believe when you're seeing an elephant for the first time or a lion and you're just engrossed in in that entire moment. Your adrenaline's pumping, you're nervous, but you're also so excited at the same time. And that's when you've got to sort of watch carefully that somebody doesn't just reach out and touch an animal. And because that, I don't think, like I said, it will definitely not end well. So that's when you've got to be most careful, is when there's just so much going on, and you just have to keep reminding yourself not to do things like that. But otherwise, if you sit in the vehicle, you can chat normally, you can sneeze, you can do all those sorts of things. As long as you sit down and keep your hands in the vehicle, you can get an up-close and personal experience with amazing wild animals without really interfering in their lives too much. And I think for me, that is one of my favorite things about being out here and being able to get so close to the animals. But we're not far now, we're almost at the pan, so you just have to bear with my driving for a little bit longer, and then we'll be able to have a scan and see what is out and about. But you know something that I've been seeing a lot of? I'm so sorry, these lovely brakes. Is look at all this feces on the ground here. Can you get this, Eggsy? Is it a bit too close? Oh no, I think we can see it. There we go. You can see it just on the edge of the vehicle, all that dung. Now, I'm not going to touch it because it's quite stinky dung. That is from a hippopotamus, and we often see it all spread out like that, and over the trees and leaves you may even see some of the feces on that small green plant on the top. You can actually see it sort of stuck onto it. Now, this is normally from a male. The hippos don't just mark their territories inside the water, they also have territories when they come out the water, and this is one of the ways that they'll do so. They wag their tails as they start to defecate, and of course then it acts as a fan and it sprays it all over here. And normally the female hippos, they don't do this. They normally just defecate, and you'll see their balls of dung still intact, almost like miniature elephant dung. But let's carry on. We can't be too far if we've got hippo dung close by. Let's go around, and it looks fairly fresh. It didn't look too old, maybe from last night, maybe even yesterday morning, quite early, but from some time yesterday. Oh, I can see the antennas of the big towers in the distance from the lodges, so that means we're definitely not far. Let's go around here. Oh, before we do, we've got to say hello. Can you see Mr. and Mrs. Wahlbergs? Oh, it just looks like one of them. For now, I just want to very quickly show you and say hello to one of the Wahlbergs eagles who's sitting on the right-hand side in that dead tree. There it is. Hello. I think this is the same one that we saw jumping around on the log yesterday. It seems to be quite pale, and these pale morphed Wahlbergs eagles are very special to see. Are you having a sleep? No? Oh, hello. No, just grooming yourself. For a moment I thought it was fast asleep, but look at those beautiful big talons that it has. Quite nice. You can see their feet quite nicely. Very relaxed. Okay, but let's say a goodbye to the Wahlbergs, and let's very quickly, we're only about 150 meters away or so from this dam, and we're chasing the clock to have one last look and see what's around. I'll go a little bit quicker, and I'll try not to get too distracted. You know, I'm very good at getting distracted. Yeah, almost here. There was a little bump, sorry, from the erosion. Quite steep though, gave us a little bit of drop as we went off. Eggsy, for your birthday I'll get you Velcro pants. How does that sound? He's just laughing. Oh, actually he says it sounds perfect, so we'll have to get somebody to make up some Velcro pants then. Okay, we're gonna go down. I'm gonna go down. No, let's not go into the dam wall. Let's have a little look at the dam cam. We are trying to work on fixing the dam cam and get it up and running as soon as possible. So don't worry, we're trying our absolute best to get it all going. You're making interesting noises today, Jiggy. Oh, we're here. I can't see anything. Let's get right in front of the watering holes though. And let's have a look here. Well, it seems as though you're not missing out on too much this morning, as there is not even a insect that I can see just yet. A few little bubbles, perhaps from a terrapin or something along those lines. But unfortunately, yeah, of course it is. You see the little head of the terrapin. Hello, little guy. Doesn't look like a particularly big one, but they seem to be quite happy. There's a couple of them poking their heads out. Even right here in front of this log, you can see all of their heads. They're funny looking things when they do that. Now, terrapin is probably, if you're from the States, what you would call a turtle. So it's, for us though, a turtle is the reptiles, the big reptiles, of course, that look like tortoises that you see swimming in the ocean. And the terrapins are something in between a tortoise, which we see on land, which Byron had lots of yesterday morning. Look at that one looking at us. And they've got claws and they've got webbed toes, so not quite a flipper like an actual turtle. And you can see how quickly the water is also drying up behind us in the pan, just down below where the cameras are. I think even from yesterday, it's drying up quite quickly. And here's a good example of, you can start to see the green grass coming through as well on the edges of the watering holes. Can you see that? They're looking nice and green. They started to turn a lighter shade of brown and yellow, but luckily they've had some life pumped into them again. And now typically around the watering holes it gets green quite quickly. So if you want to take a couple of screenshots, you're welcome to. Perhaps on that patch of grass that you're looking at right now, Eggsy, that might be a good patch. And I think over the next few days we're going to see that greening up quite nicely. Let's even have a look. Can we have a look on this beautiful open area? I want to show you the area just over here. Look at that. Even from yesterday, it looks a lot greener. You can see those clouds also building up in the distance. Now, I think this is also going to be another good spot to monitor. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to say goodbye to you. But we hope that you have enjoyed the show today, and it's been an absolute pleasure. So from myself and Eggsy, we will hopefully see you this afternoon for the sunset safari. But let's go back across to Byron, who I'm sure would also like to say goodbye to you.
Thank you very much, Taylor and Eggsy. And what a way to finish off the show with this herd of elephant. We've just come across them. What a great morning. We've had some wonderful sightings of birds this morning. And now to finish with the herd of elephants, some youngsters feeding there too. Thank you very much to everyone again for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed it. And don't forget to join us for this afternoon's drive or our sunset safari. It'd be great to have you with us again and answer some of your questions. Thank you for all the questions and comments. Oh, look at that. Wonderful to see a herd feeding. I really seem to be enjoying those trees. Probably also looking for the bark, like we saw that male elephant earlier this morning. I'm so glad you also got to see the Nkuhuma pride this morning, the lions and the buffalo. They've been very successful, so it's great that they are still around, still doing so well. There's that lovely little one in the background. Thank you very much to Brian and the thumb this morning. Amazing camera work. Thanks, Brian, for all the birds that we saw. Thank you to Kirsten and Lou in the FC. Always nice having the voices in my head and with them sending through all the questions. Again, don't forget to join us on Safarilive this afternoon. Hope you've all enjoyed it. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you all later. Have a great day. Bye-bye.